Just jump right into it. Hi, hello, welcome. My name is Amanda. If you're new to my channel, thank you for joining me on this journey. Today we are going to be reading chapter 7 of the Edgar Cayce Guide to Self-Healing. I already have my finger in it because I kind of, just because I want to get right to it for you guys. I'm trying to get in the habit of not talking so much. The body according to Edgar Cayce. The object of the self-healer's methods and treatment is ultimately the well-being of the body. His efforts and energies are expanded in that direction so that health and a sense of well-being can be maintained. With this obvious concern, the healer would do well to pay close attention to the concepts on the body that the master healer, Edgar Cayce, proposes. Sometimes one gets the impression from studying the Cayce readings that he emphasized the mind and spirit to the detriment of the body. Nothing could be further from the truth. For Cayce, man is always triune, namely body, spirit, and mind, and restoration of balance in the Trinity was his healing objective. He saw the body as very important since it is the presence creator for man. The body also communicated signals that spoke for the mind and spirit well-being. Cayce respected the body, and above all, he knew how to read it and understand it. This explained how he could be so successful in his healing efforts. For Cayce, the body's role is to keep us in this world, on this planet. And he knew that the body had to be kept in balance, for it is through the body that our non-material aspects, viz. Mind and spirit, are able to operate successfully and thus achieve the promise of their creation. The purpose of life is linked with the well-being of the body. With the perfect understanding of any law, the law may be made part of the entity, and as a development through the physical plane is to gain the understanding of all universal laws, the knowledge thus attained and made a part of the entity brings the development, whether from those still in earth plane, whether from subconscious conditions, or from those who have left their impressions in the earth and have passed to other planes. Hence the necessity of the given force, as was said, my son, in all thy getting, get understanding, and the ability to apply same. Understanding the body and application of its reality and needs to the triune person is what Cayce's theories on healing are all about. When giving a physical reading, the master healer Cayce would, above all, in the body of the reading, carefully scrutinize the body. He would examine the blood, the nervous system, glandular imbalance, if there were any, and eliminations, coordinations, and assimilations. Only then would he presume to give advice and healing suggestions as to the restoration of balance in the total entity. Cayce so respected the body that he consistently referred to it as the temple. We must recognize these facts in our lives. There is a physical body, there is a spiritual body. We know the physical body is dependent upon its physical attributes for its development. It is also the temple or the dwelling place of the spiritual body. The spiritual body we know is of the Creator, whatever we may call the Creator. It comes from the same thing, even if we go back to scientific reasoning and say it begins from the lowest form of life. Wherever we begin, we have to say there is something beyond that, where it has developed, whether you believe in evolution, creative evolution, or whatnot. All reasoning has to go back to the very same thing. And if I can't answer this at all, I don't believe I'm wrong in saying that you can reason from any standpoint what you take, but this is truth. Writings of Edgar Cayce. Oh, if you're new here, my book is very old. It's coming out of the back too. Cayce believed that the body is constantly changing, and yet this renovation process in no way takes away from the stability of the body as an entity. The body replenishes itself every 7 years, and there is a continued growth in not only the structural portion, but of each sensor, each fiber, each atomic influence. Cayce saw the body as having 3 dimensions. There is a body physical with all its attributes for the functioning of the body in a 3-dimensional earth plane. Also, there is the body mental, which is that directing influence of the physical, the mental, and the spiritual emotions and manifestations of the body. While the mind may not be seen by the physical senses, it can be sensed by others. That is, others can sense the conclusions that have been drawn by the body mind of an individual by the manner in which he conducts himself. Then there is the body spiritual or soul body, that eternal something that is invisible. It is only visible to that consciousness in which the individual in patience becomes aware of its relationships to the mental and the physical being. All of these are one in an entity. Just as it is acknowledged that the body, mind, and soul are one, that God, the Son, and Holy Spirit are one. The life of the body is sustained, says Cayce, by breathing. He places great stress on this idea for obvious reasons. In the readings, he closely studies a body's breathing, since this can be the key to more underlying difficulties in the total system. Then in the physical body, there are those influences through which each of these phases of an entity may or does become an active influence. An awareness of this may be brought about by exercising of the mind through the manner of directing the breathing. For in the body there is that center in which the soul is expressive, creative in its nature, the Leydig center. Just in case you are interested, when they said the Leydig center, it's spelled Leydig. By this breathing, this may be made to expand as it moves along the path that is taken in its first inception at conception, and opens the 7 centers of the body that radiate or are active upon the organisms of the body. For breath is the basis of the living organism's activity. Thus, exercises may be beneficial or detrimental in their effect upon a body. Hence, it is necessary that an understanding be had as to show as to when or in what manner such may be used. It would be very well for the body to study very carefully the information we have given through these sources as respecting meditation. Then this information that will be given here may prove beneficial in the experience of the body. Cayce describes the body further and more in depth. The central nervous system, CNS, brain, spinal cord, sensory, and motor nerve networks can be thought of as the activating, controlling, and integrating system. Psychologically, it represents the will, volition, and controlled interaction with the environment. The autonomic nervous system can be thought of as the automatic regulating system of the vegetative functions of the body, heart, blood pressure, digestion, excretion, including perspiration and respiration, chemical balance, etc. It is further subdivided into 2 fairly distinct systems, the sympathetic and parasympathetic. The sympathetic is essentially expansive or facilitating of emotional behavior, the parasympathetic constrictive. The body is an organism that grows over a long period of time, but nevertheless is constantly recreating itself. There were many periods or days required for the building up of the body, as represented by the group that acted in the capacity of the active individuals about the building of these edifices or temples that were to represent then the recreation. And I'm doing that on purpose because it actually has it. Oh, I see. I'm doing that on purpose because in parentheses it actually separated re and creation. Recreation halls. There were the preparations for the spiritual worship that comprised not only the sacrificial altars, which were not as for the offering of sacrifice and the slaying of animal or bird or beast or reptile or man, rather that upon which individuals put their faults and blotted them out with the fires of those forces that were set in motion. The self-healer ought to recognize the fact that the body is a great communicator. It is constantly sending out signals as to its state, but all too often we are too busy or distracted to listen. And this unwillingness to recognize the language of the body brings about crisis and harm. There are rather conditions of which the body physical should take warning, and by correction of what is minor in the physical functioning at present, bring about a better condition in the physical and furnish the channel through which the mental and spiritual may manifest. For the body physical is truly the temple through which the mental and spiritual and soul development must manifest, and in manifestation does the growth come. A lot of people consider the body as second class or even as the evil co-partner of the soul. Religions have oftentimes inculcated this attitude of near resentment to the body. Although Cayce was a deeply religious person, he did not share this disdain for the body, nor did he consider it evil in any way. In the beginning, as matter was impregnated with spirit of the creative influence, there came into being man. In his environment that made for indwelling of the spirit, which a soul that might be made one with the creative energy. That matter became impregnated with spirit arose from the very fact that spirit separated had erred, and only through the environment of matter or flesh might the attributes of the source of good be manifested. For the spirit of evil did not become manifested in matter. It has only been moved by or upon or through matter. Just as the process of time has moved in and through matter, so there has come to man in the finite mind the consciousness of the indwelling of soul, spirit, body. What the body does and how it operates is vitally important to the total entity. What one thinks continually he becomes. What one cherishes in his heart and mind he makes a part of his pulsation of his heart through his own blood cells and builds his own physical body. After death, the soul and spirit feed upon and, in a sense, are possessed by that which was created by the mind in the earth experience. Whatever has been gained in the physical plane must be used. In analyzing the disturbances that exist here, it would be well for the body to analyze much of its attitude, which has been overcome in a measure, though the entity has been and is a very good anatomist. It finds that impulses received through the mind and the radiation or vibration of environment often have much to do with the way in which an organ, a nerve, or a gland responds to stimulation from kinds of combination of drugs or even mechanical appliances. Bodies do not respond in the same way under some sets of conditions as under others. Why is this? There is a body, there is a mind, there is a soul. Each has its attributes, each has its limitations. The soul in the material world is controlled by mind and body. I'm sorry I keep scratching my nose. Just really quickly, growing up, my grandma had this sixth sense about somebody like almost like looking for her, and her nose would itch, and it was crazy because I developed that as I got older. So I'm so sorry I keep scratching my nose. All these should be taken into consideration. Then the body will interpret. It will see how resentments which have been a part of the entity's experience through various periods of its development have had their influence. In this chapter, we are not looking to Cayce to give us an anatomical and psychological perspective of the body. If such were available, we would not include it here. What we are attempting to develop is the total vision that Cayce had of the body and its needs, relationships, and growth process. For these are what ought to interest the self-healer. Cayce's language in describing the body may not be scientific nor at times adequate, but he does indicate scientific concepts which might lead us to some grasp of the conditions required for healing to take place. We see as we delve more into Cayce's concept of body that he is forever relating the body and its problems to the spiritual or mental, but this is never to be considered a downgrading of the body. The mental attitude and the mental forces of this body need more attention than the purely physical conditions. For the correct mental attitude towards self and the duties that the body physical and mental owes and is due others, the physical conditions would near correct themselves. But without awakening of the mental and physical responsibilities of this entity, those physical conditions which have brought about the weakening of the mental forces through the strain produced on the nerve system, there will be no need of the correction in the physical, for this would only bring other conditions that would prove as detrimental to the physical being as the conditions which are produced. As is understood by some and thought by man, within each physical being there exist the elements whereby the organs and their activities and functionings are enabled within themselves to supply what is needed for replenishing or rebuilding their own cells. This may be done as comprehended within a period of every 7 years. Thus, it is a slow process, but it is a growth in the energies of the body. We find what is commonly called the law of cause and effect, or karmic conditions, being met by an individual entity. For as given of old, each soul shall give an account of every idle word spoken. It shall pay every whit. Whenever a person thinks of his body, he thinks of its mortality. We all know that one day we shall die. When or where, that's another question. But the reality of death confronts us each day. What did Cayce think of death? There is no death. It is only the transition from the physical to the spiritual plane. Then, as to the birth into the physical is given as the time of the beginning of the new physical life. In the same manner, the death of the physical is the birth and beginning of a new spiritual life. A death in the flesh is a birth into the realms of another experience for those who have lived in such a manner as not to be bound by earthly ties. Death for Cayce should not be a cause of alarm nor a source of fear and anxiety. Sickness of any kind was to him a simple occasion to improve oneself and do better. This is a warning to change conditions in the physical body while there is yet time. Don't just think about it. Do it now. The lesson to know how to do good and to do it not is sin. If it will be accepted, there is a purging of the body, thus a prenatal condition or a choice by the entity to enter this particular environment. Yet those making administrations to give help for this body may change the whole course of this entity's unfoldment. First, there is a need we find to get those cooperation of the body itself so that those impressions may be made upon creative influences in the body. This will require a spiritual awakening and a mental alertness. The body has grown, so don't care in some respects that this will require some effort on the part of those responsible for the body. What Cayce does not want the self-healer to engage in is self-criticism. This seems to be habit when people get sick. They look for something to blame or someone to be their scapegoat. Sickness in the body is always a sign, a guide, a directive. That is what Cayce taught and believed. It did not frighten him, nor did it send him scurrying to run for cover. In this emblematical way, in this emblematical way and manner, we find lessons given to this body through the efforts of the mother of the guardian forces for this body. Apply the lessons given in your life, but not in a way that would cause dissensions or which would bring adverse criticism to self. Neither put on the long face nor think that there is naught to life but the dreams of the future. There is more to life than just living, and death is not the end. Thoughts and deeds create conditions that must be met, for the soul liveth and is a portion of the creative energy. It returns to the whole God, yet keeps its own identity as a portion of the whole. All then are a part of God, for he is God of all. This is a warning to the entity to carry out fully the suggestions given for her to take those medications that will bring equalizing conditions throughout the system. For there is a lack of proper metabolism in the system. This causes distress to the body. Be warned and act. Few may show forth that even felt in the heart, but the liver bad. For twice does the blood pass through the liver to once in the heart. The liver is the clearing house for that of the blood in and out of the heart and lungs. So in the conduct of life, in the study, think twice before you speak, for there's only one tongue but two eyes. There is only one heart but 7 lobes in the liver. And use what thou hast in thine hands, and thine ye will be single in service, thy tongue will be loosed in the right direction. The body's influence on the total entity should be evident by this time. The question arises, what does Cayce think about sedatives and the like which are taken internally and in some way influence the body in its operations? A bromide of any nature must eventually become destructive to the physical forces of the body. A hypnotic of any nature, if continued to be used, must become destructive to the better functioning of the body. Sedatives and hypnotics are destructive forces to brain and nerve reflexes. In the light of this, it becomes evident to the reader how important it is for him or her to learn the principles of self-healing so that in his own life there is never a gross dependence on drugs in order to gain relief from pain or symptoms. Especially is Cayce adamant on this use of alcohol or nicotine. These he feels are definite harmful agents to the body. Beware ever of two influences in the life from that experience and this sojourn. Nicotine in any form and alcohol in its hard forms. These will become stumbling experiences if there are indulgences in those directions, such that they become habitual in the inclinations and influences that arise not only as appetites but as the emotions or sensory forces of the body, for these will be easily influenced by such. In the readings of Cayce, there is often made mention of a term of elimination. He reads the body's elimination level and is able to make some acute judgment on the state of the body through these. It is well for us in this chapter on the body to review what Cayce means by eliminations and what these have to do with healing. When speaking of eliminations, most people immediately refer in their minds to bowel movements or, never seen this word, or micturition. M is in Mary, Icturation. But when Cayce mentioned the term, he was referring to all of the organs involved, namely the alimentary canal, kidneys, respiratory and respiratory systems, plus all other bodily activities which ultimately result in the excretory functions. Cayce thought that any elimination imbalance was very harmful to the well-being of the body. What are some of the factors bringing about problems in bodily eliminations? Cayce saw this as arising from incoordination between deep and superficial circulation, improper diet during the period of menstruation, nervous tensions and suppressions of fears, and glandular reactions, and the gradual building of difficulties related to the glands and circulation. I do want to speak on this just really, really quickly. My boyfriend and I, in March of 19, it couldn't have been 2020. Yeah, because I was working. I was working in March of 19. In March of 19, he went for 28 days, I want to say, and I only went for 25 day water fast. And I can say that 2 weeks in, I got my period, and that would have had to been the easy breezy cover girl period of all times. I want to say it only lasted max 2.5 days, not even a full 3 days. Barely any blood. And when I say barely any blood, I do mean there was never once on any day there was any red blood. It was super small brown blood, and it was so light. I actually was able to wear a panty liner throughout the whole thing. And I can honestly say I wish I had better discipline every time my period came, because that there was incredible. And I remember there is a frugivore that I watch. Shout out to you, Freely the Banana Girl. She mentioned that years ago that women shouldn't even be experiencing the heavy menstruations that they do if they were on a proper diet. And just in case you don't know, frugivore just means a completely fruit diet. But I do want to get back to the book. Yep, I lost where I was at. Boom. Does the body eliminate properly? With a plain no, he answered, and then went on to add, the unequalized circulation, the effects of digestion and of toxins in the system cause the unequal distribution of the high hepatic circulation, causes poor elimination. There are times when this is very good. This is especially shown in the system by the complexion and the texture, as it were, in capillary eliminations, causing at times the circles under the eyes. It is still necessary that those conditions of eliminations of this body be more thoroughly established in their correct channels. Reason with yourself in this manner. Unless the poisons of the body are eliminated, they will enter the nursing child's system. A good physical condition may not be realized unless an elimination is established, for it affects the nursing child as well. Take care of the body, and is the message that Cayce is giving us. Hold on, I try to get the book ahead. That Cayce is giving us. Understand it. Know what it is about and what influences it. That way, it will give you the service required and will not be a problem to the mind and spirit. Two ways in which we can actually ensure the health of the body and its proper functioning are especially stressed by Cayce. As a self-healer, it would be well to note these and to attempt to make them part of a daily regime. The two paths are rest and proper exercise. In the physical forces of the body, there needs be rest, there needs be relief from physical mental anxieties, for these continue in the present to make for what that influence wherein the very vitality, the very life existence is being put into that position of where there is the rebellion between the spiritual, the mental, the material, and these make for such physical anxieties between the material forces and the soul forces that rebel one with another. As Cayce saw it, the forces of the body are interwoven. One helps the other hinders, as the case may be. So along with proper rest comes the urging to entertain a proper program of exercise. It's well that everybody, take exercises to counteract the daily routine activity so as to produce rest. Common or ordinary understanding should give one the correct idea as to how the application of the exercise deals with the body. If a little thought is given to this, that the body is built up from the radiation of vibratory forces from each and every unit of the body functioning in its proper manner. When asked what is the specific value of morning and evening exercise, Cayce replied, well, the body should have the regular exercise night and morning. In the morning, the exercise for the upper portion of the body, in the evening before retiring, exercise from the waist down, such as was used in setting up exercises of the army. Persistence. Yet, as has been outlined, equalizing circulation, remembering this. In the actions of the physical body, the blood forces are carried to the head in the day exercise and must be equalized over the system by exercise in the evening, with the body gain from physical rest that necessary to keep it in perfect equilibrium. To rest in the evening, the body must have the exercise. Only a few minutes, of course, morning and evening, that will equalize the circulation. Then to over-exercise any portion not in direct need of same to the detriment of another is to hinder rather than to assist through exercise. Exercise is wonderful and necessary, and little or few take as much as is needed. In a systematic manner, use common sense, use discretion. And finally, Cayce knows something that will help us motivate ourselves in the proper care and protection of the body. The exercises that are being taken are very well. They should be taken, however, with the intent and purpose of benefit being derived rather than as something to be gotten through with. Take them rather with the feeling and desire that they bring conditions necessary for improvement in the physical body. Cayce was very insistent on a proper diet to ensure the health of the body. As a self-healer, one must not neglect this very vital set of instructions, for proper dietary care not only aids the body, but enables one to cope adequately with the diseases and threats that surround us. Indeed, Cayce makes sure that we understand the part that proper diet plays in a balanced life. Understanding this ourselves, we can better put our own physical house in order. What thou eatest, see it doing what thou would have it do. Now there is often considered as to why those of either the vegetable, mineral, or combination compounds have different effects under different conditions. It is the consciousness of the individual body. Give one a dose of clear water with the impression that it will act as salt. How often will it act in that manner? One who fills the mind, the very being, with an expectancy of God will see his movements, his manifestation in the wind, the sun, the earth, the flowers, the inhabitants of the earth. And so is the body builded. Is it to gratify just an appetite, or is it taken to fulfill an office that will the better magnify what the body, the mind, the soul has chosen to stand for? and it will not matter so much what, where, or when, but knowing that it is consistent with that desire to be accomplished through that body. We are physically and mentally what we eat and what we think. What causes the disturbances in the physical body? What, in other words, make a person sick and unable to perform? Rather, it is the combination of foods that make for disturbances with most physical bodies. Do not eat quantities of starches with the proteins or meats. If sweets are taken at the same meal, these are preferable to starches and meats. Then do not also combine the alkaline reacting acid fruits with starches. Meat should not be taken with starches that grow above the ground. Hence, potato or potato peelings with meats are much preferable to eating bread with meats. Plenty of lettuce should always be eaten by almost everybody, for this supplies an effluvium, EFFLUVIUM as in Mary, in the bloodstream that is a destructive force for most of those influences that attack the bloodstream. It's a purifier. How long can we live? Cayce believed that if a person lived properly, ate wisely, didn't worry too much, and maintained a positive, optimistic attitude on life, there was no reason that person could not live to a ripe 120, 121 years. When he gave some rules for eating and drinking that are important to good health, he responded, be consistent in the eating. Eat at regular times in the matter of the diet throughout these periods of recuperation. We would consistently add more and more vitamin B1 in every form in which it may be taken, in the bread, the cereals, the types of vegetables that may be prepared, the fruits, etc. Be sure there is sufficient each day for... I'm so sorry about my nose. Be sure there is sufficient each day for adding the vital energies. These vitamins B1 are not stored in the body, as are A, D, G, but it is necessary to add them daily. All of those fruits and vegetables then that are yellow in color should be taken. Oranges, lemons, grapefruit, yellow squash, yellow corn, yellow peaches, all of these and such as these, beets, but all of the vegetables cooked in their own juices and all the body eating the juices with same. Coffee taken properly is a food, that is without cream or milk. To another woman who had been on a reducing diet came this dream. It was raining starch. I felt I should go out in the rain of starch and put it on my side to ease the pain. To which Cayce replied, in this dream there is present an emblematic form that which will both assist and prove beneficial to the body. As we see it, starch is one of those elements necessary for the well-being of the physical body. This has been lacking in the diet for some time, thus creating an inability on the part of the body to eliminate used forces. This has brought the pain. Eat more starches and we will find the pain decreasing. When asked what should be the diet for this body, Cayce replied, not too much of meats of any kind. Rather take fowl or fish and vegetables that clarify the blood. These would be cooked onions, beets, carrots, salsify, raw cabbage, celery, or lettuce. These will act well with the mental and spiritual forces in the body. Keep away from red meats, ham, or rare steak or roast. Rather use fish, fowl, and lamb. Bodybuilding, that was the keynote of Cayce's dietary suggestions. Thus, Cayce 5269 was told to use the bodybuilding foods such as beef juice, beef broth, liver, fish, lamb. All these may be taken, said Cayce, but never fried foods. Give me just one hot second. Alrighty. Cayce ended many of his dietary suggestions with the warning, never anything fried. These are familiar words to anyone knowing the Cayce readings on diet. There were to be no exceptions. Someone once asked Cayce an interesting question. Since onions are supposed to be good for your blood and otherwise, why do they cause such an ill-smelling gases? Cayce answered, from the most foul at times comes the most beautiful of lilies. In the evening one is supposed to make sure that nothing greasy enters the stomach. This for obvious reasons. Evening, if this is dinner, the well-cooked vegetables, but not those vegetables cooked in or with grease, those cooked in their own juices as in a steamer or in a patapar paper. These may be seasoned well with butter, but not seasoned with bacon or with cooking meats of any kind. Cayce 1710-4 asked Cayce for an outline on the proper diet and things to avoid. This is what he said. Avoid too many heavy meats, not well cooked. Eat plenty of vegetables of all kinds. Meats taken should preferably be fish, fowl, and lamb. Others not so often. Breakfast bacon, crisp may be taken. Excuse me. However, vegetables that are fresh, and especially those grown in the vicinity where the body resides, shipped vegetables are never very good. Cayce especially preached the value of gelatin as a vital food for the health of the body. Often use the raw vegetables which are prepared with gelatin. This admission was frequently repeated over and over again by Cayce. What is gelatin's secret? It isn't the vitamin content, but its ability to work with the activities of the glands, causing the glands to take from that absorbed or digested the vitamins that would not be active if there is not sufficient gelatin in the body. There may be mixed with any chemical that makes the rest of the system susceptible or able to call from the system that needed. It becomes then, as it were, sensitive to conditions. Without it, there is not that sensitivity. And in the manner of diet, keep away from too much grease or too much of any foods cooked in quantities of grease, whether hog, sheep, beef, or fowl. Rather use the lean portions and those meats which will make for bodybuilding forces throughout. Fish and fowl are the preferred meats, no raw meat, and very little ever of hog meat, only bacon. Do not use bacon or fats in cooking the vegetables. Once again, we see how important diet is to the well-being of the body. It, in fact, plays an enormous part in self-healing and maintaining a sound body. When asked about specific diet hints for eyes, Cayce said, if gelatin will be taken with raw foods rather often, that is, prepare raw vegetables such as carrots often with same, but do not lose the juice from the carrots. Grate them and eat them raw. They will help the vision. Eat that which is a well-balanced diet, but often use the raw vegetables which are prepared with gelatin. Use them at least 3 times each week, those which grow above the ground rather than those which grow below the ground. Do include, when these are prepared, carrots with that portion, especially close to the top, this part of the carrot may appear the harder and the less desirable, but it carries the vital energy stimulating the optic reactions between kidneys and the optics or eyes. Cayce loved tomatoes and thought them to be one of the more helpful foods, he writes. Quite a dissertation might be given as to the effect of tomatoes upon the human system. Of all the vegetables, tomatoes carry most of the vitamins in a well-balanced, assimilable manner suitable for the activities in the system. Yet if these tomatoes are not cared for properly, they become very destructive to a physical organism. That is, if they ripen after being pulled, or if there is a contamination with other influences or subjects. Nominally, though, tomatoes should form at least a portion of a meal 3 to 4 days out of every week, and they will be found most helpful. The tomato is one vegetable that in most instances is preferable to be eaten after being canned, for it is then much more uniform. What then is a normal diet that a self-healer should consider? Without going through all of Cayce's diet recommendations, the following observations might be helpful. Normal diet: use at least 3 vegetables that grow above ground to 1 that grows under the ground. Corn and tomatoes are excellent. More of the vitamins are obtained in tomatoes than in any other one growing vegetable. Let the iron be taken in the foods instead of from the medicinal sources. It is more easily assimilated from the vegetable sources. Plenty of lettuce should always be eaten by most everybody, for this supplies an effluvium in the bloodstream that is a destructive force to most influences that attack the bloodstream. It's a purifier. Keep plenty of those foods that supply calcium to the body. These we would find especially in raw carrots, cooked turnip greens, all characters of salads, especially salads of watercress, mustard greens, and the like. These are especially helpful taken raw, though turnips should be cooked, but cooked in their own juices and not with fat meats. Cereals that carry the heart of the grain, vegetables of the leafy kind, fruits and nuts as indicated. The almond carries more phosphorus than iron in a combination easily assimilated than any other nut. If cereals are taken, do not mix them with citrus fruits, for this changes the acidity of the stomach to a detrimental condition. For citrus fruits will act as an eliminant. Yep, when taken alone, but when taken with cereals, they become as weight rather than as an active force in the gastric forces of the stomach. Finally, the self-healer ought to consider the advice of Edgar Cayce on the value of simple water. Most people do not drink enough water, and yet this is one of the most effective tools for self-healing that Cayce offers. Let us go over some of his admissions as regards the simple liquid. Always drink plenty of water before meals and after meals, for as has often been given, when any food value enters the stomach, immediately the stomach becomes a storehouse or a medicine chest that may create all the elements necessary for proper digestion within the system. If the foods are first acted upon by pure water, the reactions are more nearly normal. Do not at any time allow the system to pass days or even a day without the body throwing off the drowse through natural channels. There should be more water taken into the system in a more consistent manner so that the system, especially in the hepatics and kidneys, may function normally, thus producing correct eliminations from the system. And for this reason, each channel should be kept in equilibrium with the other channels so that there is not an accentuated condition in any one of the eliminating functions. There should not be an overtaxing of the lungs, liver, or respiratory, but all should be kept in an equal manner. Lack of this water in the system creates an excess of such eliminations, which should normally be cleansed through the alimentary canal and the kidneys, so that draughts are forced back into the capillary circulation. Therefore, each morning upon first arising, take half to 3/4 of a glass of warm water. This water should not be so hot that it is objectionable, nor so tepid that it is sickening, and this will clarify the system of poisons. Never when under strain, very tired, very excited, or very mad should the body take foods into the system. Never take any food that the body finds is not agreeing with the same. Anyone who is serious about self-healing knows that proper diet and eating habits are important. Most of our illness and day-to-day discomforts arise from inattention to what we eat and the way we eat it. The final readings from Cayce should be of value to anyone seeking to learn fundamental ways of keeping the body healthy. Train yourself never to bolt your food. Take time to masticate so that the assimilation will be good. Then, if there is an even balance between foods which produce acid reactions and those which produce alkaline reactions, they will digest under most circumstances. For in all bodies, the less activities there are in physical exercise or manual activity, the greater should be the alkaline reacting foods taken. Energies or activities may burn acid, but those who lead a sedentary or non-active life can go on sweets or too many starches. These should be carefully balanced. To briefly summarize, then, the care of the body requires careful choice of what goes into the body. Whatever the self-healer does, he or she must make sure that it is done with proper balance. In that way, the body can fulfill its role in terms of the total person, and that includes providing the mind and spirit proper protection and manifestation. I just want to apologize for my nose, and then I also want to apologize for me fidgeting so much. Yesterday, I was very, very sick, and today I'm still very lightheaded and a little drowsy. So I'm trying my best, and that's honestly another reason why I haven't looked at the camera so much, because I have the light on, and I have a migraine out of this world as well. So I do apologize for not giving more eye contact and fidgeting so much. Yes, but I hope you enjoyed that chapter. Please enjoy your day. Please take care of yourself. Do not get sick like I am. As you can tell, I'm not sneezing or sore throat or coughing anything. It's just like my body is just like I had a fever though of 100 degrees, but Like, my body is just out of it right now. So just work with me, guys. Please have a wonderful day. Take care of your bodies. Do what's good for you. Have a wonderful day. Bye.